Hi, I'm Saida Garrett, co-writer of Michael Jackson's Man in the Mirror, and you're listening to Rainbow Country with Mr. Mark Tara.
The views and opinions expressed on the following program are those of the persons appearing on the program.
Today on Rainbow Country, queer theater, both stage and screen. That and more on episode 348, so stay tuned for Gay Talk Radio right here on Rainbow Country.
Hi, this is Carol Pope.
Hi, I'm Garrett Conley, author of Boy Erased, a memoir.
Hi, I'm Lorraine Segato.
Hi, I'm Gord Depp with the Spoons. You're listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.
Well, hello and welcome to yet a brand new journey through Rainbow Country. As I like to call it, a little gay radio show working to give voice to the LGBT community and beyond. And as always, I am your tour guide through Rainbow Country. I'm producer and host Mark Tara. By the way, Rainbow Country originates from CIUT FM in Toronto and now proudly in syndication on 12 outlets across Canada, from coast to coast to coast. The Yukon, British Columbia, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, the east coast of Canada in Newfoundland, Ontario, even down to Buffalo, New York, and online. Well, thanks to you tuning in, streaming, downloading, but ultimately listening. Together, we continue to build Rainbow Country into a nationally syndicated gay radio show, a #1 LGBT podcast on Podomatic.com's Gay and Lesbian chart, as well as being recognized as Canada's #2 LGBT podcast on Feedspot.com. So today, queer theater, both stage and screen. The Gay Card, a new Canadian play, is part of the Live 5 Independent Theatre Festival, April 20th to the 30th at the Sexual Spacewalk Theatre. This is happening in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. Here's a bit about the play. The Gay Card is a play about those who grapple with connection, consent, and the hyper-sexualization that is ever present within the queer community. The story is told through multiple intimate queer perspectives. Writer, producer, and costume designer of The Gay Card, Logan Martin Arcand, and actor Braden Butler are my guests. Plus, the new Canadian coming-of-age LGBT film, Soft. 3 adolescent friends become captivated by queer nightlife. Writer and director Joseph Amenta joins me to talk about all things Soft. And in hour 2, music from LGBT artists, independent artists, voices that we've come to know and love in classic disco, classic 80s, classic house, and on this episode I'm featuring some classic 80s, a spotlight on a gender non-binary artist as well as a queer Christian artist. All that lies ahead as we start Journey 348 through Rainbow Country. And when I return, we'll find out about the new Canadian coming-of-age LGBT film, Soft.
Hi, everybody. This is Gino Vanelli. You're listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.
Joseph Amenta. Hello. Hi. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am well. I have to say thank you for being here to have your voice, your story be heard by the LGBT community and beyond. So thank you for that. Let's start here. Your current film, Soft, an award-winning film. Talk to me about Soft and what this film is all about.
Yeah, so it's a feature film that follows the lives of three adolescent queer friends who become enraptured in the nightlife scene over their frivolous summer break before becoming focused on finding a missing persons that's been pulling them back into the reality that they've chosen to abandon. It's a coming-of-age story about friendship and freedom and finding your way in a world that sometimes feels like it doesn't want you.
Talk to me about casting these three young individuals, the main characters. How challenging was it? How easy was it to find these three pivotal characters?
Well, we knew from the script level that one of the biggest hurdles, especially as a micro-budget film, was going to be finding these three very special children to inform the roles. So we spent almost 2 years casting very consistently. And we were, looking under every rock, trying to really engage with the industry in atypical ways. So we were doing conventional casting, but we were also visiting queer shelters and queer housing units and gay straight alliance programs at schools and drama programs and after school programs, and just trying to not only find the cast, but also to talk about the film with queer youth, to see what their perspective was and what their ideas were, and, if they were excited about this kind of story being told. And we met a lot of interesting people along the way, but ultimately the three were cast in different ways. The young woman who plays Tony, Zion, was found through a friend of a friend, and we just met for a coffee, me, Zion, and her mother, and we just kind of formed a relationship. And once we had Zion, it really helped inform the role of Tony, and I was gearing the character towards Zion and Zion's mannerisms and story, and we knew that we needed to kind of use that age bracket from 11, 12, maybe 13, as opposed to the initial 13, 14, 15, which was essentially an upped challenge. But we found the other two after years of online auditions and outreach, and we did a chemistry read, and I jumped off the cliff with these kids, and I couldn't be more grateful with their performances.
So, Joseph, they often say, write what you know, write what you know. You co-wrote this film, Soft. You directed Soft. How much would you say of Joseph is in Soft? How much of you is in this film?
Well, I didn't co-write it. I wrote it, but I had a story editor who was very involved in the writing process, the origin process, named Miyoko Anderson, who plays Dawn in the film. I think that's a challenging question for me to answer. I think a lot of debut features from first-time filmmakers are really memoir-based. They are autobiographical. They're really focused on, a reflection of the filmmaker's demographic and story. And I'm more inspired by the world as it lives and breathes around me. I'm inspired by ideas that I want to revisit and explore. I think that this is a personal film for me because I don't really recall much of my childhood. I think that I disassociated to a considerable degree, and I put on blinders and knew that I needed to make it out to find a place where I could express myself and be myself. And as, someone who's 31 years old now, I look back on that kind of missing portion of my life, and I wanted to discover what that was. And I wanted to fall back down that metaphorical rabbit hole into the beautiful naivety of youth. I see myself in all three kids. I think Julian is my ego, someone who I wish I was at that age, in terms of power and ownership and confidence. I think Tony is an example of who I aspire to be, someone who is supportive and loyal and kind and imaginative. And I think that Otis is closer linked to my own personal experience as a young person growing up in a religious home with very protective parents, So I see myself in all three of those kids, and I pull inspiration from the mosaic that is our community, and that's really where the origin of the story is.
So what sparked this film? Did it come from an idea, a conversation? What was the genesis for Soft?
Well, again, I think I wanted to revisit this childhood experience. And I just finished watching Jenny Livingston's Paris is Burning, and I was really taken by the two boys outside of the ball. And they are in a very short sequence, and they're kind of holding each other in this very tender way that we're not used to seeing young men engage physically. And they're looking at this queer community in the 90s that the rest of the world looks down on with such adoration, with such rose-colored glasses. They understand the beauty, they understand who they are, but they don't understand the way the world works completely yet. But they have one another, and they have this fantasy land that they so desperately want to breach. And I just wanted to explore what this friendship would be in a film at that age, where, you know, no one's coming out of the closet, no one's in school getting bullied, no one's even like transitioning in an overt way. These three kids already know each other. They already know how you know, they already know their sexual queerness. They already know their gender queerness, and they are just owning it like a pack of hyenas or colorful bandits. And I wanted to see that strength in numbers that we don't often get to see in queer youth in cinema.
The title.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Soft. It was originally called Pussy. Why the change?
You know what? I think about this all the time. It was probably the most disheartening experience I've ever engaged with in my career. I love the title Pussy. I think for me, the film will always be Pussy. I think it angered a lot of people. It's a censored word for a number of reasons. I think it's rooted in misogyny and homophobia and bigotry, and antiquated understandings of what that word means and the layers that are involved in its context within the film. But ultimately, you know, the film could exist in Canada as Pussy, but would not really be able to breach those borders. Specifically in America, other English-speaking countries, less progressive countries, the film would be censored, and we would not be able to share the film with those areas of the world. My sales agent said something that was really eye-opening, almost a challenge, but also a really great way for me to understand the industry. He said, I understand what you're doing here, and I commend it, but you're a first-time director. It's a micro-budget film, and you're not at the point now where you're going to change the game. It's going to impede the eyes on the work. And I mean, you watch the film, the word pussy is all over the place. It's used in layers. It's used in a way that perpetuates this learned language that the kids use, this derogatory language that they don't understand is meant to oppress people like them. And then it's used in the soundtrack where the children are, you know, experiencing the most freedom, the most energy and exhilaration. And it calls to the ballroom community where I get so much of my inspiration from, where the word is revered, where being pussy means to be feminine and powerful and elegant. And I think that juxtaposition was just really interesting. The word soft is linked to the east end of Toronto, namely, I'd say Scarborough to Oshawa, where, you know, if you're called soft, which I was a lot growing up, it's essentially synonymous with the word pussy. You're being called soft, you're being called feminine or recessive or weak. And all of these things go back to the understanding that female energy, feminine energy is weak. And that's obviously not the case for the characters. And as we're finally learning in the world, it's not the case in reality either.
So whose decision was it to change the title of the film?
It ended up being, we had an opportunity with the sales agent, which we needed. And they put it in the contract that in order for them to sign the film, I needed to change the title. And I will say this quite frankly, you know, in the industry, there's a lot of heteronormative people, including members of my team. And from the beginning, it was an uphill battle. And I had a lot of people on the inside that were nervous, scared, resistant to this being the title for a number of reasons. Even a Google search would bring up, X-rated videos. So there were a million challenges, especially with a film at this scope. I think I was kind of ahead of the curve, and I didn't have the tailwind to push me all the way. It really does. It still sits with me. But sometimes you have to wrap the arsenic in a pretty little bow. And when you watch the film, the word prevails.
A couple things come to mind. One, it's show business. And the other thing too is in the film, you've got, like you said, you've got pussy all over the film. Like, isn't there even a song that's just saying pussy?
Well, it's a Vogue chant where they're talking about moving feminine and pussy and feminine soft pussy. And again, it's a ballroom track that is used to kind of unleash the feminine energy that most queer people kind of hold tight to their chest in social spaces and public spaces. But the word is there. The word is in the film. It's just, as a title, it was such a barrier, specifically for distributors, international distributors. It was seen as a massive barrier. In my mind, if anything, it was a conversation starter. I was really excited about the idea of having the film be called Pussy. But I think that the heteronormative world really has a hold on their context of what that word means. And we know in the heteronormative world what that word means. So yeah, it's unfortunate, really is unfortunate.
Mm-hmm. So Joseph, you are an award-winning filmmaker. You're a Gemini, you're queer, you're gender fluid. In 2022 at the Chilliwack Independent Film Festival, Jury Prize, Best of Fest, and the winner is Soft. Winning that award, what did that mean to you, winning this award, if it meant anything to you?
I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. I wasn't at the festival, and we actually didn't know that we had won until quite a few weeks later. I had just finished quite a big tour at some international festivals across Canada. And it's interesting to me because you really never know where the film is going to land. It's really, a small group of people in a room watching content, deciding the value of your work. And, sometimes that skews in the favor of the film, sometimes it does not. And I think that as an artist who is so desperate for their work to be seen and to be shared, anything that is going to push the work forward is a benefit. But I have a tendency to focus on the shortcomings as opposed to the breakthroughs. And that's something I'm trying to work on for sure.
So my last question for you, Joseph, is simply this. What do you hope audiences come away with? What would you like audiences to come away with after they've seen Soft?
I think a few things. I really encourage audiences to fall down that rabbit hole I mentioned earlier with the kids. I really committed to a visual style that creates a fourth invisible member of this trio of children, where I want the audience to move with them and experience joy and youth and frivolity and fear and hope. I want all audience members to kind of revisit that childhood experience that I was so desperately trying to touch again. And I also want them to understand that these people exist in 3 dimensions. I think that we're living in a time, specifically in Canada, where we're focusing on representation, which I think is really important. But I think representation can sometimes be almost a patronizing term, where we're focusing on including almost angel characters that don't have agency or nuance or emotional complexity or fault. And I want people to understand that even these young queer kids that don't have much and are so brilliant, they can make mistakes. They can do something that is hurtful. They can make decisions that are selfish. And I hope that that's where we're moving to in the next few years with diverse cinema. And we're not just placating to angel characters as a means of reparation for lack of representation in the past. I really want to showcase a human condition above all else and use the colorful world we live in to be the backdrop.
Well said, well said. Joseph Amenta, did I say that right?
Thank you. Yes, Amenta, yes.
Yes. Well said, well done, well made. Congrats on the film, well done. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you, my friend. It's good to hear you again.
Soft starts its theatrical run in Toronto, The Review, Winnipeg, April 14th, Cinematique, and Saskatoon, May 19th, The Roxy. For more information on this award-winning filmmaker, Joseph Amenta, simply visit his website, josephAmenta.com.
Hi, I'm Paul Poirier, Canadian champion in ice dance and three-time Olympian, and you're listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Terra.
The 30th annual Hot Docs Film Festival runs in person in Toronto, April 27th to May 7th. And a curated selection of over 100 films will be available to stream nationwide from May 5th to May 9th. The 30th annual Hot Docs Film Festival showcases the best in Canadian and international documentaries, and this year's festival features 214 documentaries from 72 countries. There are a number of LGBT documentaries that are part of this year's festival, both in person and online. Some documentaries to look out for include a gay documentary called Much Ado About Dying, a trans documentary called Sketch, It's Only Life After All, a documentary about lesbian duo Indigo Girls, and one that I'm personally looking forward to, Love to Love You, Donna Summer. The Donna Summer documentary hits Hot Docs this year. Again, the 30th annual Hot Docs Film Festival runs in person in Toronto, April 27th to May 7th, and online May 5th to May 9th. For more information, simply visit hotdocs.ca.
Hi, I'm Eric Radford, Olympic and world champion figure skater, pianist, and composer, and you're listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Terra.
Up next, the gay card. Logan, Martin, Arcand. Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am well. Braden Butler, hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Thank you both for being here to have your voices, your stories be heard by the LGBT community and beyond. So thank you for that, especially to talk about the gay card. The Gay Card. This is an original Canadian play. I believe, Logan, you wrote this play, The Gay Card. Talk to me about this play, Logan, and what is this play all about?
This play is very much a celebration of, like small urban center queerness. So it's not quite small town queerness. It's not big city queerness, but it's about, I guess, kind of like the isolation and, like the intensified, like romantic hopes that we have while still being in a place that, like our queerness is a little bit more guarded. So the play follows three characters, and their relationships, with one another, the relationships with like Grindr and hookup culture and love and desperation and wants and fears.
So Logan, what inspired you to write this play?
Well, I started writing the play back in 2015, and I guess what inspired me to start writing it initially was my own feelings of just being what I would say would be perpetually single. I felt like stuck in this weird loop of like seeking validation from men, especially older men, wanting to be loved, wanting to love someone, wanting to have like stability, but then not knowing how to get that. And not even feeling like I was worthy of stability and love. And so the play started off as like a really long monologue about queerness, my queerness, and my relationship with like just the concept of relationships.
And the title, The Gay Card. What's the story behind this title, Logan?
I would say that the title is multifaceted. Initially, I would say that the title came from this feeling of never feeling like queer enough, like never feeling gay enough, and then really not knowing what that meant. I didn't feel worthy enough to be a part of a community. I didn't feel like I had a place, and so I always felt like my gay card was constantly getting revoked because of whatever reason, right? And then the other thing that kind of inspired the play was, the phenomena of gay men using their queerness or their proximity to queerness in order to forego social responsibilities. So, even myself, my own journey with like coming to terms with the fact that I could cause harm in the world and that my queerness doesn't negate the harms that I can cause, whether potential or actual. And so like as a queer person, like there's a lot of throughout my entire adult queer life, like there's been I've been grappling with like consent and violence and like bullying and misogyny and racism, and I have contributed to all of those things, and I've also been like subjected to all of those things, and that like my queerness doesn't stop me from contributing to those things. And so yeah, there's just this phenomena of like pulling the gay card to say, well, I can't be racist because I'm queer or I'm gay.
Powerful words. Braden, you are an actor. How did you get involved with the gay card? How did you pull that card out, girl?
It's a bit of a long story, actually. So the first time that Logan produced the gay card, it was a very different script, and it ended up being a one-person show at the Fringe in Saskatoon. And Logan asked me if I was available for it, but I wasn't at the time, and I think that was 2016, right? Yeah. And then a couple of years later, they were taking the show to New York. And I think you asked me then as well, but I just started theater school and I wasn't going to be available during like the December, January period that it was going to New York. And then this time around, I think it was like 6 or 7 months ago, I saw a post on social media that it was happening again. And I messaged Logan. I was like, now is the time. Can I please audition for this show now? And they'd already cast my role. But then, there was a change up in casting and the role became available, and Logan messaged me and I said yes instantly because I was free and I've wanted to do the show for a long time. So, yeah.
So, Logan, Braden just mentioned New York City. You guys played the gay card in New York City. What, the Frigid Festival, I believe?
Yes.
How and Braden also mentioned that the play originated in Saskatoon originally. Then you guys went to New York City. Performing in New York City, having your play performed there. What did that mean to you?
It was incredible. Like,
you know what they say: if you can make it there, you can make it anywhere.
100%. Yeah. It was incredible. Like, I think there's two things that make me incredibly happy as an artist, and it make me feel incredibly fulfilled as a theater artist and a playwright. Is number one, having people dissect my work, trusting people to dissect my work. And so for this current iteration, I'm not in the rehearsal room. I'm not the one making the creative decisions. And I got to sit in on a few rehearsals so far, and it's so fulfilling, artistically fulfilling, to have people that I trust, like, pull apart my work and look at it with a critical lens and look at it with their own artistic lens. And then the other thing that's really fulfilling is just having my words live on beyond me. So, like I said, it started off as a one-person show starring me back in 2016 for the Saskatoon Fringe. And then in 2019, I found out about this, the Frigid Festival in New York City. And I found out about it the day before their lottery opened. And I had no money in my bank account. I found out about this, and then I was just like, I'm going to put my name in. And so I put my name in, and then a week later they got back to me and they were like, oh yeah, you've been randomly selected on the lottery to do the gay card. Now you have to send us, it was like 3,500 Canadian to secure your spot.
Wow.
And so I called my bank and I was like, hi, can I get my credit limit increased? Even though I had zero money in my bank account. And they increased my credit limit. I put the that 3,500 on my credit card. And I had 4 months to get $25,000 to bring the show to New York. But then just having my words spoken, performed in like the theater capital was just so incredible.
And Braden, for yourself, being an actor in this play, I know that you weren't there in New York, but being part of this new version of the play, what does it mean to you to now be able to be part of it, to be part of this project now? What does that mean to you?
Yeah. Well, I find as like I play a wide variety of roles, and I often play like maybe straight characters or characters who are in more like heteronormative relationships. And I find that as I play those characters, there's a lot of second guessing or doubt that I have about how I'm being perceived, how I sound. I did private vocal coaching lessons to learn how to not sound gay in theater school, like all that sort of stuff. And the rare occasions when I get to play a character that's queer or gay, it's like I don't know, it feels like like putting glasses on for the first time and being able to see so much more clearly. There's like and there's so few insecurities that I have around it, because it's an experience that I truly know, at least from my own limited life experience. And so it's refreshing, and it's a relief, honestly, to play a character that I understand more closely than than some of the other characters I've played in the past, or that I have to do less work or less research or overcome less self-doubt in order to feel like I understand them.
So, Braden, how did you get into acting? Is this something that you always wanted to do at a young age?
Yeah, it is. I knew I wanted to be an actor since I was 4, I think.
Wow. Do you come from like a performing background, like your family?
No. My dad's in real estate. My mom's a teacher. I think what sparked it was the Disney classic Snow White. I remember being a small kid and like 4 years old and watching that film with my family. And there's the scene where she's like running through the woods, and probably everyone can maybe recall this scene, but and there's all these creatures coming at her out of the woods, and she has all these shocked faces on, and I used to run around the house pretending that I was Snow White trying to escape the huntsman in the woods. And that's my earliest memory of wanting to be an actor. And then I guess at some point I realized that it was a job and that you could dedicate a life to it. And I've been pretty clear on wanting to do that for a long time now, I guess.
Wow. Snow White running from the huntsman, secretly wanting to be caught by the huntsman.
Yeah, in my version at least.
and Logan, for yourself, how did you get into theater, into acting, into playwriting? How did this all start for you?
So I started in theater as an actor. And I thought that I really wanted to just perform all the time because I love being theatrical. And once I started doing theater school and acting school, I was like, no, this is not for me. Like it was extremely draining, but also like I am a like fat, overly, or like I'm a fat indigenous queer person who can't really hide from all three of those things. And it was really hard being an actor and demanding that people see me as like a neutral being when people didn't see me as a neutral being. And so over the course of my theatrical career so far, I went from being someone who really wanted to be an actor to then focusing on like set design and costume design, to then finding a voice as a writer. And I really enjoy writing when I want to write. Yeah.
So you just mentioned, Logan, about how people see you.
Mm-hmm.
How do you see yourself? I'm curious to find that out.
Okay. So I see myself with that lens, like that intersectional lens. Like I have a multitude of identities that hold value and should be cherished. But then as an actor, I just wanted to escape from those identities so badly. And I think it's because I saw other people, they were allowed to look, and not just other people, but in particular, my white male, like straight colleagues, they just got to be like theater artists. And I always had to be the queer indigenous theater artist. But then pushing away from the acting world, I now get to embrace those parts of me as opposed to wishing to be like free from them. And I think that's really important. And now I really want to create space where people can be, all of their identities, without it being seen as like a burden to overcome.
So Live 5, Independent Theater Festival. This is one of Saskatoon's theater festivals, Live 5. your show, your play, The Gay Card, is going to be part of this festival in April. So you originated in Saskatoon, you went to New York City, now you're back again with a new version. How does that make you feel, Logan?
It makes me feel really great that this play has had such a long life. I started writing it in 2015. And since I first did it in 2016 for the Fringe, there's been a demand to do the Gay Card as like a full-length run and a full production here in the city. But it definitely is a huge undertaking to produce theater. And it's a huge undertaking to produce theater anywhere. So Live 5, it's a theater festival that gives a platform to 5 productions every single year throughout the course of, like a theater season. So they'll start off with their first show in September and then do one in November and then one in January and then one in March and another one in April. And they provide us with a stage and then we have to provide everything else. So I had to find the team, me and my creative partner, Mitchell, who were both producing the show. We had to essentially take on the role of creating this entire show from scratch again, because there was nothing really, like there wasn't a foundation from when we took it to New York to build upon, other than the fact that I wrote it and then Mitchell was in it when we went to New York.
So what parts are you doing in this new version? Are you producing it? Are you directing it? Are you doing the costumes?
I am producing it. I wrote it, and then I am also doing the costumes.
But you're not directing it.
But I'm not directing it. No, we have an amazing director who specializes in clowning, who's directing it. His name is Ken McLeod.
And Braden, for yourself, being in this production in Saskatoon, talk to me about the rehearsal process and getting this show up and going. How has this process been?
It actually, the best part about the process for me is where it's taking place. This is actually my first show in Saskatoon, which is, where I was born and raised. Most of the work that I've done has been in Edmonton, where I went to theater school. So it feels like a bit of a homecoming to be able to be on a stage in Saskatoon for the first time since I've graduated. And the process is, every day is a little bit different, but I'd say probably the most consistent thing is the fun that we have in the room. It's a very open, communicative space. It feels quite collaborative. It's sometimes you walk into a show and a director has all of your movement, all of your blocking pre-planned, and you learn your track, and then you throw it up under some lights after like a week and a half or 2.5 weeks of rehearsal. This process, we have 4 full weeks before we even begin incorporating tech. And so we've been able to take our time and explore each scene from various different angles, and at every point that somebody has a new idea that they want to try out, there's always space for that in the room, which is one of my favorite ways of working. I'd say that like something that Ken, our director, brought into the space on day one was a quote from a mentor of his, which is that we don't have a lot of time, so we can't afford to rush. And that has definitely been the mantra of the last 2 weeks. We've taken it slowly with space for everyone to contribute, and it's a wonderful place to go to work every day.
So Logan, how has the play evolved and changed from its original run to now, to today? you mentioned that you starred in it originally. Now it's like 3 people in it as the cast. Over and above that, how has it evolved?
The overall heart of the show is definitely still the same. So the original version that Braden would have saw back in 2016, it was about, 3 people, the same 3 people that it's still about today. But I would say the biggest change is just the natural refinement of the process. And every creative team that we've had working on this show has deeply affected the voice of the show. So every time that we've had, new actors coming into the space and a new director and so on and so forth, little bits of those people end up, or even big bits of those people end up incorporated into the voice of the show. And so like one of the characters, Evan, who is played by our dear friend Adam, Evan was a completely different character before Adam came on board back in 2021. So we workshopped it in 2021, and that's when Adam came on board. And when I first heard him read the dialogue for his character, I was like, oh, yes, like this is it, totally. But it's no longer right. Like it's no longer correct. So there were a lot of things that ended up changing once we got Adam on board, because the energy and the compassion and the generosity that Adam brought to the room affected how I saw these characters.
So my last question is the same question for both of you, and it's simply this, and Braden, I'll start with yourself. Once audiences see the gay card, what do you hope audiences come away with after they've seen this play, the gay card, Braden?
I think from maybe a logical perspective, I am sure that the takeaway from the show will be, as unique to each individual that sees it. But I would say that my hope is that some people get the takeaway that I got from the original show in 2016. And I think this speaks to the heart of the show that remains even as different artists reshape and contribute new layers to it. The takeaway for me in 2016, and which is still there today for me, is a feeling of hope for people who may find themselves, spiraling within the queer community and not quite being able to connect with the people they want to connect with for whatever reason. When I saw the show, I felt very seen by both Logan's performance and their words, and that's what I hope some people are able to take away from this iteration, is hope for the possibility of connection in their futures.
And Logan, for yourself, what do you hope audiences come away with after they've seen the gay card?
So I want to create a space where we could grow and learn, of course. I believe in utilizing theater to model, personal growth, community growth. And so I don't want to dictate how people react. All I could kind of hope for is that that my words, this play, the performance of our actors and the direction of our director, I hope that all of it comes together and contributes to someone's personal growth, to a community growth, in whatever way possible.
Well said to both of you, Braden, Logan. Thank you both for your time. Well said, well done, and good luck with the run.
Thank you.
In Saskatoon.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
The Gay Card will be part of the Live 5 Independent Theater Festival, April 20th to the 30th at the Sexual Spacewalk Theater in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. For more information, simply visit live5.ca.
Magnus Hirschfeld made the modern homosexual. He co-founded the world's first gay rights group, the Scientific Humanitarian Committee, in Berlin in 1897. But what is far more important is that he and his colleagues came up with an enormously influential concept of what same-sex desire was, what it meant, and how it fit into the wider world. If you think homosexuality is an inborn quality that cannot be changed and has a biological root, but is not an illness, and if you think gay people are a sexual minority who are born that way and who deserve legal protections just as racial minorities do, you owe those ideas to Hirschfeld and a handful of others. He was among the first to articulate that conceptual model of what it means to be gay in print in 1896.
We just heard professor, author, and historian of queer and trans politics, Lori Marhofer, reading from Racism and the Making of Gay Rights, a sexologist, his student, and the Empire of Queer Love, their powerful new gay history book, about the man who made the modern homosexual, a German physician and sexologist who died at the age of 67 in 1935. Magnus Hirschfeld.
Bill 7, to ban discrimination in employment, government services, and housing, based on a person's sexual orientation, was up for a vote at Queen's Park. Most NDP and Liberal MPPs supported the bill, but without some progressive Conservative legislators backing, a divisive split could rack the province. 4 PCs decided to break party ranks to vote with their conscience and support Bill 7. Cabinet Minister and MPP Dennis Timbrell did it to show solidarity for his beloved brother, the well-known drag queen Rusty Ryan. And for me, a gay politician who was not yet out, I had to take a stand. We were known as the Gang of Four. I'm former Cabinet Minister and MPP Phil Gillies. The date, December 2nd, 1986, when LGBT rights came to Ontario.
And just like that, this little gay journey through Rainbow Country has come to an end. For the full 2-hour episode, simply head over to marktara.com, where everything is connected, and hit the archives banner. To keep up to date with the show, check out my socials at Mark Tara. The podcast for Rainbow Country is available on all major platforms, including audible.com and iHeartRadio. Finally, I want to take this time to thank you for taking your time to be with me. Remember, despite all the craziness in the world these days, know this, that we are living in days of making dreams come true, so believe in yourself. And the world will believe in you.
Hi, I'm Agnes. My new record, Magic Still Exists, is out now. You are listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.